on the singular days out. If we continue that plan for next year, we could back the substitute teacher cost down. I'm not sure if we made that decision yet.
Well, my question on that is David, are you comfortable with doing that, or are you only comfortable with doing that because we don't have the money to hire substitutes? I guess that would be the question. On a single day or a 2-day absence of a teacher.
On the short term, and I look at a short term as anything that is a couple of days. The answer to that is something else goes, but the principals have been very good at least at the elementary level, of assigning a paraprofessional, and when we do that, not just for an hour or two, but when we say to a paraprofessional, you need to cover Mr. Troton's class for that day, we're expecting that paraprofessional now to be the primary teacher. Interestingly, many of our paraprofessionals have degrees, and they're would be as effective as bringing in a substitute who does not really know the system on a short-term basis. And we expect a teacher who is out, unless it's a pure emergency, but even in an emergency case, we expect our teachers to have emergency lesson plans there. So I guess the answer on the short-term basis is that we're making it work. At the high school level, we are taking teachers. We have very few paraprofessionals there, and they're generally working in special education. But we're taking teachers off supervision duties, which is part of their responsibility, and asking them to cover the class. So we are achieving some savings, but this is up because of long-term needs. When there's a long-term absence, whether it is illness-related or surgery-related or Family Medical Leave Act, then we will make every effort to bring in a permanent substitute. And we will pay the permanent substitute at either, depending on whether they have to have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, and they are paid at step 1, regardless of the number of years of experience. So it's on a per diem basis. If that long-term sub is not in because he or she is ill, they're not paid for that day. We have experienced the last several years an increase, because with an increasing staff, with a changing staff, we have more long-term illnesses and conditions. With maternity leave, because it falls under family medical leave, we will fund that with a permanent substitute. But there's a finite period of time. It doesn't go on. If a teacher's out for a year, we're not paying that teacher and paying the long-term substitute. Only for a certain amount of time. That qualifies under a Family Medical Leave Act. So there are restrictions on it, but this is higher, and I think to underfund it, I don't think we're suggesting to treat this as snow and ice, and then come back looking for additional money, or is that what you're saying?
Well, if we're level funded, we wouldn't be putting a $60,000 increase in, and how do you know it's going to be $60,000?
Well, do you want to comment on this, because that's past?
Well, let me look at what it was in FY08. I can tell you, and that gives us some history. It's in your budget book, but the FY08 figure was 321,000.
Okay. So you dropped down to 235.
Split the difference.
And you think you went too low? Okay.
Okay.
My second question isn't so much the expense that's in here for the athletic director, but it is with the athletic director's position. And I shared this with David and with Mel. We're cutting back programs at the high school, and we have an athletic director that does not teach a full load. He teaches less classes than the two prior athletic directors did. And I know we did that because we had an intention to use this time differently, perhaps to bring in more scheduling of our programs into the school department. That hasn't happened, and I'd like to see the athletic director pick up more classes so that we can increase the offering to students. Even if we increased PE to juniors, or reduce the size of the classes that are currently existing, I don't think we can, moving forward into next year, I don't think we can afford to give him a full-time teacher salary and a stipend for athletic director. Maybe in the future, when we resurrect a plan for, you know, a different job description, more duties, then I'd feel differently, but that idea never came to fruition, and he's not teaching a full load, he's teaching one class. And I think that's not right, given kids having reduction in classes.
Yeah, could you explain the thinking behind that in terms of the reduction in classes?
Well, it's always been, over the years, it's not been one class. So we think of it as 0.2 as one class, up to a full load, 20%, 40%, so forth. It's more typically 40%. What we've seen in the last 2 years, this year and last year, is that we have an increase in teams, number one. And again, you have to think about, in some districts, the athletic director is put into an administration position. It's a year-round position. We're expecting the athletic director to work over the summer in terms of hiring staff and getting programs started. We're expecting the athletic director to be at most, if not all, of the athletic contests, which are on evenings and weekends, basically fall, winter, and spring. The stipend, I don't have the budget booklet.
10,000.
Yeah, it's around
10,000.
10,000,
Yeah.
plus the base teacher stuff.
Mhm.
So when we consider what we're paying for, say, a department head, an additional stipend of about 35 or 3,600, with a 20% reduction, with no expectation of any evenings or any summer work or any weekend work. I think it comes down to a dollars and cents issue in terms of what is that position, what's the value of that position in terms of actual funding. Certainly can look at restructuring it and perhaps increase the the salary stipend, and then try to balance that off of what it would cost to what you would gain. If you hired someone to teach one physical education class and use the basis of, what are we seeing, 48,000 for a position, then it's going to cost us about another 9,000 per section. So I mean, those are some of the kinds of trade-offs. And part of the reason that I put together this staffing report is I thought it could be helpful to take a look at our staffing relative to some of the programs that we're running. And on this reduction list, there are some administrative reductions, there are some secretarial reductions that I think will have an effect on the athletic director.
So is he teaching .2 or .4?
Point two.
With all due respect to the administration and the staffing, and all the time that you spend coordinating, I still don't understand how we can move forward into next year with an athletic director who's getting a teaching salary and a $10,430 stipend, and have him teach one class. in addition to his athletic duties. I would question whether he worked full-time year-round. I know there's hiring involved, but we're not hiring, we're laying off. I know that the athletic director attends home games, but that's what the stipend's for. That's a $10,000 part-time job to run the athletic program. I went out in the listserv and asked, there are towns that hire an athletic director just outside of the school department as a part-time function. And there are many towns that use their athletic director in administrative capacities, and what we do, many that use them in teaching, most that use them in teaching capacity. But no one teaches just one class. There's an awful lot of time left in his day to run our athletic program, in addition to the stipend that compensates him to do those duties after 2:30 in the afternoon. I went along with that change, as we all did, because we were talking about changing the job description, having the athletic director do more scheduling of fields, to get more involved with the recreation process of youth sports scheduling. That hasn't happened. But what has happened is we've cut gym for juniors and seniors. And I just see kids that want a PE class. I see time in the elementary and middle school where we could put in PE classes. I hear about nutrition programs. And this position should be doing some of that work. We have a need for those classes to be running. And we have a person, and we've reduced his hours in the classroom. So that's one area that I think moving forward, if we want to say we're doing the best and everyone's giving it their all, then that position has to pick up some classroom time. Just one, not speaking for the committee.
So that would be, if it went to .4, you'd have to teach one more section and one more class.
Yeah, again, Mrs. Fokker and I, as she said, we've talked about that. I think, again, we're looking at 215 staff members, and that's all part of the big picture. I'm very confident, as if we were to take any one of the teaching staff members, regardless of whether they're working as a preschool teacher or whether they're working as an athletic director, they're all in that group called teachers, and they're covered by the collective bargaining agreement. Some of them receive stipends to go above and beyond that. Some of them are teachers in the classroom teacher standpoint. Others are not working directly as a classroom teacher. So they have different responsibilities. And I guess overall, I believe that no matter who you are, I believe that there's no one in our system, in our school district, who isn't working at a very high level. And that does not mean that we can't step back and take a look at this. And in fact, all of these recommendations are asking us, again, not to add to programs, but how can we contract and do things in a better way. So that's what we're doing. And I appreciate, pointing out one position. I think we're going to be talking about a whole lot of them in this whole budget crisis that we're in.
And the only thing I'd say is the athletic director, that stipend, to me, is much more of a stipend for attending the various events. I think that the responsibilities of the athletic director are included within a salary, the administrative responsibilities. So I don't know exactly how much time that encompasses. I'm sure it's a significant amount of time. But the difference is, we pay the head football coach probably $9,000. And that's for one team. The athletic director is expected, as has already been explained, to be at as many teams' performances as possible. In fact, we're required to have somebody there. And that's throughout the year. That's 3 seasons, and some days it's multiple teams. It may be something in the afternoon and something else at night. So, it's a huge time commitment. Am I correct that we're supposed to have somebody designated as a representative of the